Good afternoon. This is WLBT's Ask the Experts, live from the Hub, the very pink Hub. I'm Kelly Boyd, and joining me back in the Hub again today is attorney Mac Reeves from Maggio, Thompson, personal injury attorneys. Welcome back, Mac.
Proud to be here.
Good to have you again.
Yeah,
so do you know why we've turned the Hub pink?
Well, you know, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I believe.
Absolutely, it sure is. And this is our 13th annual year for our Power of Pink initiative with our Baptist Cancer Center sponsors.
Okay. Well, I would have worn a pink tie if I've known that.
Yes, and also, speaking of, it's Wear Pink Day for us for our Power of Pink Day. So people that sent in the hashtag WLBT Power of Pink with wearing their pink up until today may be on the news throughout the day today.
Oh, well, that's fun.
How fun, right?
Yeah.
So lots going on for breast cancer awareness this month. So we're glad to have you here. We have questions for you from our Ask the Experts page on WLBT.com. But while we're live on Facebook, if you have questions about personal injury or car wrecks, anything to that nature, you can certainly ask Mac Reeves while we're live.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay. All right. Question number 1. What is considered a personal injury case?
Personal injury case basically is anything where you're injured. You know, pretty simple. Typically under Mississippi law, we would pursue that under a negligence theory. It's, you know, someone has a duty, they breached that duty, they caused injuries, and those injuries are related to their negligence, basically. It's a 4-step process, and really there's tons of, you know, slip and falls, car wrecks, workers' comp. Sometimes if there's a third party that's liable for those injuries, we'd have a third party case for that on a personal injury case.
Okay. All right. Next question. I have teenagers, and we have a lot of parties at my house for my son and his friends. If one of them gets into a fight and gets hurt at my house, am I liable?
Well, that's hopefully your son isn't hanging out with friends that would, you know, a rowdy group of friends.
Right.
But you know, say that there's alcohol involved, and you're aware that alcohol is being served to underage minors. You could definitely be held liable for that. A fist fight, possibly. I have not handled a case where that has happened, but you know, if there's some injury, that's definitely a personal injury case where there may be some liability on those parents. Absolutely. Okay. I'd be very careful with that.
Definitely. Okay. I was driving on the interstate and a truck was hauling 2 large dumpsters. The dumpster lid came off, oh my, and in order to avoid the dumpster lid hitting my windshield, I swerved and hit the railing in the median. Is that truck liable for my injuries and damages to my vehicle?
Most likely, yes. So there had to be something wrong with the dumpster, right? It's on a trailer. Obviously, if they would have loaded the trailer correctly and had everything strapped down, nothing would be flying off of that. Definitely the biggest issue there would be getting that truck's information, because you know you're dodging a lid that's coming at you on the highway. Hopefully there'd be a witness that would call 911, let the highway patroller or you know local authorities know, and try to flag that truck down. But that would be the biggest thing in that situation is figuring out what was wrong with that dumpster lid, why it flew off the trailer, and who that thing belonged to, and who was transporting it.
Wow. Yes. All right. I'm a truck driver, and it seems like people are always cutting in front of me when I'm trying to leave gaps for braking. One day, I believe it will cause an accident. Am I protected from people like this that don't take into consideration how heavy my truck is and that I can't stop it instantly?
So, some personal injury attorneys get a bad rap about, you know, going after trucking companies, okay? We represent truck drivers as well. It sounds like in that case you would have a duty to continue to slow down. You have a duty to be able to stop the vehicle if something does happen in front of you, but at the same time, if something did happen, it would be considered under comparative fault under Mississippi law. So was a car that swerved over in front of you, you know, how much fault did they have for maybe potentially causing a wreck if they, you know, swerving through lanes and driving radically.
All right. Who determines whether or not your injuries from a car accident are old or newly sustained?
So in certain cases, we would, you know, we look to the medical records in every case to prove our damages, of course, but say in some cases where person goes to the emergency room on the date of, nobody's going to argue that that's not related, right? Say that you were in physical therapy from a previous injury. and your previous injury has been exacerbated, and maybe you had to start your physical therapy all over.
Okay.
We may want to then hire an independent doctor that that's not treating you, get them to do an evaluation, get an expert report from them relating the new or exacerbated injuries back to the date of this car wreck. And if you're typically treating before, say, a car wreck, those records are going to show that your pain scale went up, or you had maybe a little different injury, or you're hurting somewhere else.
Okay.
And if there's an argument, we definitely hire an expert physician to go through those medical records and do everything we can to relate those new injuries or the exacerbation of those previous injuries.
Okay. All right, and I think that you kind of answered the next question. It was, can you get compensated for a car accident for the accident worsening a pre-existing condition? So.
Absolutely. Going through a case like that right now, actually, where my client was treating for just some degenerative issues, and she was seeing chiropractor or a therapist, and she had a little car wreck, and she was already, they call it the eggshell doctrine in Mississippi.
Okay.
So she was already in a weakened state, I would say. So a terrible word for that, but she was already more susceptible to injury, I guess. And this car wreck, might not have hurt a 18-year-old, but it did. It really injured her. And we're still working on the medical records, but she has a great treatment record. That's the most important thing in these two, is to get treatment and be sure that all your treating doctors are aware that you were involved in the car wreck.
Okay.
And she had an emergency room visit on the day of, and I think we're going to be all right, just because she did so well at letting her doctors know, hey, I was involved in a car wreck. And even though she was treating for some of the same injuries, those injuries were made a little worse because of this wreck.
So she let them know it happened.
Absolutely.
Because her injuries weren't originally from the car accident.
Absolutely.
That's good. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. If the car in front of me slammed their brakes and I slammed mine, resulting in the person behind me rear-ending me, am I at fault for the person in front of me and the person behind me at fault for hitting me?
Okay, so we would need to know, did you rear-end the car in front of you first? And
Okay.
then the third party hits you. So that would go back to the comparative fault in Mississippi. Typically, if you had enough time to stop and you didn't hit the car in front of you, you haven't done anything wrong. The person behind you is going to be at fault for that wreck. We've had cases where our client was the person that actually rear-ended someone, and it was found that the person in front of them was driving erratically, swerving in and out of traffic, and they were at fault. So it's a real fact-intensive process to figure out who's at fault. But in that case, it sounds like the person that rear-ended you would be at fault.
Okay. All right. Miss Hilda Tompkins says, interesting. Hi, Miss Hilda. Angie Cook, this isn't personal injury, but perhaps you could refer, maybe she could contact you. Angie Cook said, do you take fourth contempt divorce case?
We do not practice family law specifically. We'd be glad if you would give me a call after I get off the show here around 3 o'clock or so. I'd be glad to talk to you about your issues and maybe get you in touch with somebody that can help you out.
Good. Thanks, Angie. All right. Back to our questions. Got lots of stories in these questions.
Good.
Lots of things happen around here.
I like facts.
Well, it might not necessarily. This is Facebook, so they could have come from anywhere. Okay. Oh, what if I get into a car accident and the person flees the scene? I don't have their information to sue them. What steps do I need to take?
Okay. Well, hopefully in that case you have uninsured motorist coverage. A lot of uninsured motorist policies require there to be actual contact from the hit-and-run vehicle. I actually have a case right now where a dump truck merged over on one of my clients, and they did make contact and ran them off the road. But, in a big vehicle like that, that dump truck, I'm not going to say that they hit and ran on purpose.
Yeah.
But he might not have even known, the driver of that dump truck, that he had even made contact with my client. So, and your uninsured motorist coverage would come into play there. So hopefully you have that. And we do see hit and runs all the time where maybe it's a little fender bender they think they're not going to notice. I've actually been rear-ended on Lakeland before, and the guy ran. And I chased him down and called 911, of course, and traffic let me go. They saw everything that happened. And luckily he drove right in front of...
Did you get to collect them as witnesses, or they were long?
I wasn't injured or anything. It wasn't that big of a deal. But he actually turned right in front of the Flowood Police Department, and they had 2 units in the parking lot ready to go. So they had him. And of course, he was an uninsured driver, and they dealt with that accordingly. So it happens. It happens all the time.
Wow. Even to the personal injury attorney, it
That's
happens, right? Okay. What if I'm in a car accident and I'm severely hurt and the other person that is at fault didn't have car insurance, kind of like what just happened to you? How would my medical bills be recovered, or can they be?
Hopefully, then in that case as well, that's why uninsured motorist coverage is so important. Your uninsured motorist cover or underinsured would step in and pay those bills, right? You really want to, hire an attorney in that case. If there's, at least look into it, because these attorneys will go and at least know where to look for the insurance.
Okay.
So under most policies in Mississippi, if you live with someone that's a relative of yours and they have uninsured motorist coverage, that coverage and that policy will apply to you as well. So, so definitely, if you have a situation like that, get in touch with an attorney, give us a call, and we'd be glad to investigate it for you.
Okay. So it applies to the whole household.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Resident and relatives.
All right. A teenager ran through a four-way stop and T-boned me on my passenger's side. I could see that they were texting on their phone before the impact. There were no witnesses at the scene, and they are denying that they ran through the four-way. What steps are taken to determine who is at fault, and shouldn't the teenager be found at fault?
It sounds like you're going to have to file a lawsuit on that case. If liability has been denied, that's when your attorney would get to go through written discovery and then take a deposition of that teenage driver. And sometimes they might not tell the whole truth because they don't want to get in trouble with their parents, right? So, you get them in front of a court reporter, and sometimes you can get a few more facts out of them. So, if you were already in the intersection though, and it was a four-way stop, and you were T-boned, and if you had completely stopped first before going through, they're going to be at fault for that for sure. Insurance company might not agree with that assessment, but that's really when you need to hire an attorney at that point.
Right, right. And it sounds like there was an accident report involved too, which sometimes it always doesn't hold up as
that's true.
as you guys have taught us here at Ask the Experts.
And we order accident reports or incident reports on every case, mainly just to have that client and defendant information, so we know who the parties are involved if there are any witnesses. On that accident report, they're not technically admissible at trial. So if it's not in our favor, people lie all the time. They don't want to get a ticket, and that's when we would do our investigation. And usually we can figure something out. So.
All right. Next question about a deer. A deer ran out into the road, causing a car to swerve into my lane and hit my car. It made me crash into the ditch. Is the other driver at fault, even though they were trying to avoid an accident by not hitting the deer?
So that is a sticky situation. So no one can control those wild animals on the road, right?
Right.
And typically under a negligence theory or an uninsured motorist theory, we would have to prove that someone was negligent. The deer can't be negligent, right? It's a wild animal. So we would have to, allege that driver should have stayed in their lane. Say they crossed a yellow line and made contact with you. I would much rather hit a deer than an oncoming vehicle. So I would recommend anyone watching today, just stay in your lane and hit the deer instead of causing, instead of running over someone in oncoming traffic and
much worse.
It just is what it is at that point. So.
Yeah.
but on that driver, they should have stayed in their own lane. And I think you definitely have a claim there. So give me a call if you need some help with it.
I think you're supposed to do that. If that's a squirrel or a deer or whatever it is.
Stay in your lane, as the kids say.
All right. All right. I didn't have insurance, and a lady merged into my lane without looking and caused a 3-car accident. I have neck injuries, but without insurance, can I still seek compensation from the at-fault driver?
Okay, absolutely. So in Mississippi, some states, Mississippi is not like this, some states are pay to play is what they call it. So if you don't have insurance, you cannot pursue someone else's liability insurance. I believe Louisiana is, don't quote me on that, but I have heard that. But Mississippi is not like that, so even though you do not have insurance, you can pursue someone else's liability.
Okay.
But main thing there is go out and get your insurance, and specifically uninsured motorist coverage along with that policy.
All right. How long does it typically take to settle a case?
We get that question all the time.
When will my case settle?
It's, it's according to the injuries, it's according to the treatment. It's
Okay.
according to how cooperative these medical providers are with getting us the bills and records that we need to pursue the claim. And it's all a process. Say you have 3 months of treatment, we get everything in pretty quick. We try to file suits as quickly as we can after we can't get the case settled. But there's no telling. On a simple car wreck, we would think 6 to 9 months,
Okay.
somewhere in that range. If it's more complicated treatment, more complicated facts, maybe a liability issue, you're probably going to have to litigate that case. And it just takes time. It
Okay.
does.
All right. Lots involved.
And it's a case-by-case basis, that's right. And sometimes we get a case where, maybe the insurance company offered them $5,000 before we get involved, and then we can get it settled for 25 or 30 or 50,
Yeah.
So it definitely makes a difference who you hire, and, if those insurance companies know they're going to file a lawsuit. So.
Somebody was telling me about settling with an insurance company the other day. They got hit by a commercial vehicle, and I thought about you guys right after they were
Tell
saying
them to call us. Did they already settle
I
it?
think so.
Okay.
But after they told me they settled, I immediately thought about you guys.
I guarantee you they did not
I was
get
like, you haven't been watching.
I guarantee you they didn't get what their claim was worth.
Yeah,
That's,
probably not.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
But some people just, don't want to get involved with it. So.
True. Okay. If I'm working with an attorney now, but they haven't returned my calls, and I'd prefer to work with another attorney, do I have that right?
You do. That's a sticky situation. So I don't particularly enjoy those conversations with potential clients. Some people just don't get along, right? And I would recommend calling your attorney, letting them know, hey, look, I'm really having some issues with this. Try to work it out with them. See if maybe they've been out of town or something. Something like that. And we do our best to give our clients a call back as soon as we can. And you do have the right to terminate that contract though, and seek other counsel.
Okay. I was in a car accident 6 months ago and didn't realize the extent of my injuries until recently. How long after a car accident can I file a lawsuit?
Well, typically in Mississippi you have 3 years to file a lawsuit under negligence theory, unless it's a Mississippi entity, a state entity, or say a city or a county. That would be a 1-year statute. I think your biggest issue on that case is going to be treatment. Did you get treatment? Or, your treatment, does it relate everything back to that car wreck? Because if you wait 6 months, a lot of things can happen. You can fall in a hole in the yard or roughhousing with the kids, and those are all defenses for that insurance company that they're going to use against you because,
Over time.
you waited that long in treatment. If you were actually injured, they are going to say you would have gotten treatment 6 months ago if this wreck caused your injury.
Okay.
So those are some issues that will come up, but, if you need treatment, get it. That's the biggest thing. I'm not a doctor, so if you're hurting, go get checked out. I'm not going to
That's
tell
the
you.
most important part,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Okay. What do I do if I live in Mississippi and have a wreck in another state? Do I get an attorney in that state?
Yeah, you can. We handle cases all over the country. We've got a few in Texas right now. We've got a couple in Louisiana. And on those cases where we don't have someone licensed in our office in those other states, what we do is associate counsel in that state. So since they're licensed in that state, they can work with us and file the lawsuit and everything, and we call it a pro hack in. So we can practice on that case, on that particular case.
Okay.
And we have really good attorneys. I just wrapped a case up with an attorney that I worked with in Georgia on a wreck that was outside of Atlanta. And that worked really well, and it's always enjoyable to work with other attorneys on those cases too. You learn a little bit. So
Sure, about the stuff in the other states too. Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, give us a call. We'll be glad to walk you through the process.
All right, good. Okay, I settled my claim with the insurance company for $1,500 right after the wreck, but I am now getting medical bills from the emergency room. I bet they total more than that $1,500 too.
Absolutely.
I did not know how much my bills were going to be. What can I do?
It sounds like you may be out of luck. I'll be glad to look at it. If you signed a release, that's absolving all liability from that insurance company and that defendant. And these insurance companies do that. They want to go ahead, wave a little bit of money in front of your face before, I mean, we have clients that get called the day that the wreck happens with an offer on the table.
Right.
It's usually $500, $1,000, something like that. And at that point, you might not even know that you're injured. So
Right.
that's one of the biggest things is kind of, don't accept that first offer, especially if you have injuries and medical bills that aren't in yet. But give me a call on that. We'll see if we can help you out. And, if you didn't sign a release and they just sent you a check, maybe we have some arguments there.
Okay, good to know. I was a passenger in a vehicle that rear-ended someone else. The driver was my friend, and I do not want to sue him, but I have medical bills piling up. What do I do?
So they were the passenger in a vehicle
That rear-ended someone else.
So their driver would be at fault, right?
Okay.
And if it's your friend, hopefully your friend has insurance too. And, it's not, people make mistakes, right? They call it an accident. It's not really an accident. It's a preventable incident, really.
Yeah.
And that's what you have insurance for too, to protect, your negligence for, say, and especially for your friends and family. So, if the insurance company won't settle with you on that, then you would have to file a lawsuit. It's not like you're going into your friend's house and stealing his piggy bank, right? You're going after insurance coverage is what this is all about.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't, they think a lawsuit is terrible. It's not about, going after somebody personally. You do have to sue them. Now, if they have insurance, that insurance will defend them, and they have a duty to do so. So that's what you have insurance for, and hopefully your friend had insurance in that case. And like I said, I'll be glad to talk to you about that as well. Just give us a call.
All right. I was hit by a drunk driver that was pulling out of a bar downtown. He didn't have insurance. What can I do?
Okay, so Mississippi has it's called a dram shop, DRAM.
Yeah.
So the owner or keeper of a bar has a duty to not overfill their guests with alcohol, right?
Oh, okay.
If they know that this driver of this vehicle was, say he had 10 beers, he definitely does not need to be on the road, or 5 shots in the last 20 minutes, before closing time. There's some liability on them for serving that patron of that bar, and Mississippi allows, like I said, it's a dram shop case, and Mississippi allows action against that bar or restaurant, whatever it may be, for over-serving of that driver.
Okay.
So give us a call. We'd be glad to talk about that too.
Good. All right. Mac, how can our viewers find out more about you and Maggio Thompson Law Firm?
Check us out. Our website, it's www.mtlawms.com. Give us a call at 601-300-3333. We'd be glad to talk to you.
Okay.
Or, reach us on our Facebook page as well.
Y'all do giveaways and all kind of stuff on your Facebook page sometimes,
We
don't
do,
you?
yeah. Periodically we do.
Seen that before. All right. Doesn't look like we have any other questions over here. I'm going to go to the Ask the Experts page on WLBT.com to see when you guys are coming back. And that date is October the 17th.
Okay.
That'll be you or Mike or Seth will join us here in the hub.
And hopefully it'll be cooler weather.
I think it might be by then.
I hope so.
And the hub will still be pink.
Good deal.
Because we'll still have our Power of Pink going on with Baptist Cancer Center
We'll
this
remember
month.
that next time
Okay.
too.
You
We'll
guys
dress
will wear pink
accordingly.
with us?
Yeah.
I know. I realize each year I think I have to buy new clothes in October because there's so many pink events. I don't have quite enough pink for October
Well, it's
for
all
everything going on.
It's all for a good
I just have to get
cause.
me a ribbon and start wearing that. Well, thank you for joining us
Thank you for
today
having
and
us.
for all this excellent information on personal injury. It's
Good
very
deal.
valuable for everyone. Thank you.
Good. Thank y'all.
All right, and let's see, we'll actually be back. Baptist Cancer Center will be with us in the hub on the 9th next week. I believe that's Wednesday. It is. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. This is WLBT's Ask the Experts.